top 4 at regional championships, but I don't believe he has ever gotten the victory. So possibly one of the strongest players in this field that has not won a regional championships. But speaking of winning regional championships, James Arnold, the Virginia regional champion back in 2018, of course, playing that Lapras GX deck, a very surprise deck, not something a lot of players expected. And he loves to play unique things, which is proven by the fact that he's playing Charizard VMAX today.
Yeah, maybe the only player currently looking to maybe get another regional win on the belt. A lot of these players are battling out to make their name known to be that first regional champion, especially after a long break here. We haven't had a regional in New Jersey in quite a while. We're getting ready to get the prize cards out into play. A Drizzile prize, boss's orders. Yeah, nothing too relevant on James's side either. Double turbo can be a little bit annoying to try to find that on the first turn. Looks like we're getting ready to get things started. Both these players have the stakes on the line. They're ready to give it their all and battle it out to get into top cut here. Round 14, the last Swiss round. Let's get into things here, Chip. I'm excited.
Everything is on the line at this point. This is effectively like playing a single elimination round, because if you win, you are moving on to top 8, but if you lose, you are eliminated. You'll likely still get top 16, walk away with some money, some championship points, but these players care about the title. They want the victory. They want to be crowned regional champion.
Absolutely. Crobat start is so unfortunate. And looking at this hand, you got a quick ball to start things off, but I don't see any energy. Wow.
And the way that James could have potentially dug for energy cards to attach this turn is through the Crobat, which he has started in the active spot. He does play a second copy of the Crobat V, but I don't believe that I saw that in the hand here or an out to getting one, so no energy attachment. That is a really unfortunate whiff and just a pass to Peter Kica. This is a big opening.
Yeah, going second essentially is like Peter is starting the game off. Going first to get things rolling, has the attachment, and that's all Peter's going to do on turn 1, just attach to Arceus and pass. But hey, sometimes that's all you need. Maybe there's some stuff like the V-Star or the Drizzile in hand for the following turn. Charizard, it looks like the top deck to start things off for James. Can at least get that down and hopefully try to get something together that maybe puts together a Trinity charge to flood the board with some energies.
Yeah, has Escape Rope in hand, so off of the Starbirth here could potentially grab a double turbo energy and an Arceus V in order to just pull off a Trinity charge, get a bunch of energy cards into play. And I do think there is a Marnie in that hand as well.
Yeah, draw support as well.
Or
Looks like
Marnie,
yeah, Marnie and research, especially after your opponent hasn't done much to start things out. We are going to see the Arceus V-Star come into play. Yet another Starbirth will be used here for James, and right away you see the Arceus getting grabbed to the top of the deck. Also looking for the double turbo energy. Has that as well. Will just elect to grab both of those cards. And as you mentioned already, has Escape Rope and a draw supporter to dig through the deck even more. And the Charizard as well to put some more energies on. Things are looking somewhat decent here for James after a pretty big miss in the first turn of the game.
Pretty bad start, but a pretty good turn 2 can definitely make up for it. Not the ideal turn 2. You'd love to be using Trinity Nova as opposed to the weaker Trinity Charge. Really smart sequencing here from James, playing the Escape Rope before showing the double turbo energy, but Peter knows, I'm sure, that double turbo energy is chilling there in the hand. James can also bench the Charizard here and has a choice between Marnie and Research. And I think just ditching this hand and drawing a bunch more cards is pretty good, especially since Peter didn't even play a supporter last turn.
Yeah, nothing was played, just an energy card and a pass of the turn. James will get 7 fresh cards off of the Professor's Research. There is a Quick Ball, a few Fire Energies as well, some Boss's Orders to accompany that hand, as well as another V-Star, so you can maybe start to get this Charizard powered up. Had to ditch a Charizard VMAX on the first turn of the game, so we'll just have the one other one looking over at the list. No other way to recover any Pokemon, so we'll just have to maybe go in with just the Charizard, but we know that Peter is playing so many cards to deal with this mirror match, even has some kind of wacky cards like the Medicham to hit for weakness. There's a lot in this list.
Lots going on for sure. James does pull off the Trinity Charge, gets a couple of extra energies in play, one onto the Charizard. Something to keep in mind is that James has a way to get extra energies on the Charizard on the next turn by utilizing the Magma Basin Stadium, possibly one of the most powerful stadium cards that has ever been printed in the history of the game, in my opinion. It allows you to accelerate a fire energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched fire-type Pokemon, with a small drawback of if you do, you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon, but it is a very strong play. So James is actually threatening a Charizard VMAX attack on the next turn, potentially.
Yeah, and looking at the hand here for Peter, I just want to make a correction. There is no meta champ in this deck. Just utilizing the Zapdos with the fighting energy to really be the bulk of this matchup. And that could be a big card. James is not playing anything like a Dunsparce to remove some weakness. But with the Mustard in hand already for Peter, has the energy as well. We could be seeing a Beedrill come out, especially after Starbirth is being used.
So we definitely could see Beedrill. It's pretty reasonable to find those pieces. Thanks to Starbirth, has the access to things like Quick Ball, Ultra Ball, Shady Dealings, all kinds of different plays available. And it looks like Quick Ball and Ultra Ball will be the grab. Just needs to pare the hand down a little bit. Can Ultra Ball and discard, I think, a Grass Energy and Ordinary Rod. Now, if you get a Training Court in play, that will be an option to get the Grass Energy to attack for the turn. Peter also will need to find a way to move this Arceus V-Star out of the active, having one copy of Air Balloon in this list.
Yeah, deciding to grab the Arceus off of the Ultra Ball and now utilizing the Quick Ball, as you said, could have just grabbed the Air Balloon to have that out of the deck to give yourself more options to be able to get things going, but just going to go ahead and grab some more basics. There's the Single Strike Mustard, grabbing any Single Strike Pokemon out of the deck. Stage 1, Stage 2 basic, any. Going to opt to grab the Stage 2. It's why this card is so good at sort of cheating out these Stage 2 Pokemon without having to evolve a rare candy into them.
So Peter can find the pieces he needs off of these 5 cards or off of some Shady Dealings, has access to evolving 2 of these Sobbles this coming turn. So if he can Shady Dealings for the Air Balloon and also get the Training Court in play. One of those Training Courts was prized, but he does play a couple of copies of the card. Let's see what he's got as the 5 for a turn. Dark Energy, Double Turbo. Training Court is a good hit. Oh, and finds the Ultra Ball. That was the last piece needed. Now can go get Drizzile and use Air Balloon to move this Arceus V-Star out of the active. And Peter is going to take a one-hit KO on Arceus V on turn number 2.
Finds all the pieces necessary to get this knockout. The Air Balloon off the Drizzile. The Training Court can grab back the Grass Energy that was discarded before the Mustard was played. So everything is there. The Air Balloon comes down. Persisting turn 1 knockout onto Arceus. Things are looking swell for Peter.
Very solid. Training Court can come down, get that energy, and James is going to have to respond. Luckily for him, it's very easy to knock out Beedrill with his deck because he can, of course, just Trinity Nova, but he's also got the option to attack with the Charizard VMAX and just use that first attack. Deals 100 damage, but Beedrill's weak to fire, so it'll easily KO it.
Yeah, I like to see some interesting attacks that are a little unconventional, as Peter will take the first 2 prize cards of the game, and you see that Charizard already coming up to the active. Even something on the Charizard V Max, like the Claw Slash to deal 100 damage, plus the weakness would still be enough to get the knockout, but this hand looks like it's flooded with a lot of boss's orders as well. Yeah, but Claw Slash on the Charizard V, doing enough to take a knockout. But you want to have some more HP to play around that. But you feel a little bit safer that the Air Balloon is on the Arceus V-Star. It means that there's no shenanigans with Choice Spells or anything. Peter not playing any tool removal cards, let alone to remove your own tool off. Scrapper would work, but there are none in the deck.
Yeah, something interesting is that James is choosing to play the Darkness Ablaze Charizard V as opposed to playing the new Charizard V from Brilliant Stars, who actually has the Incinerate attack, which allows you to discard tool cards from your opponent's side of the field. That would have been a really nice piece here because you could remove that free pivot in the Air Balloon, but it's not something James has access to, so it's just going to have to be a Claw Slash this turn, unless he can find the Charizard V Max.
Yeah, it's that trade-off between really picking out Pokemon. It's a big integral part of building your deck, of choosing the correct Pokemon to evolve into. And these small micro-decisions can be relevant.
Yeah, the Darkness Ablaze Charizard V is a little better in some aspects than the Brilliant Stars one. Fire Spin deals more damage than the Brilliant Stars Charizard V's second attack does. So that, I have to imagine, is why James chose to go with it, since it can KO opposing basic Vs.
Yeah, especially Arceus V does exactly enough to knock out an Arceus. So here's the Marnie going to get played, disrupting Peter's hand. James going to get 5 fresh cards.
Does find Ultra Ball.
Has Ultra Ball, so that could be potential to take a knockout with the Charizard V Max. Has Research as well for the following turn, so doesn't have to rely off of another Crobat to draw some more cards. And debating holding onto this Galarian Zigzagoon to maybe put together the math needed to knock out an Arceus in the following turn.
Something that would have been huge for James here would have been if he could find a Magma Basin. Did prize 1 copy of the card, but he plays the full 4 copies. This would allow him to cheat extra energy cards into play and just start to fill the board up, especially since we know that Peter has prized his other Training Court. That would have been really good because James could have gotten multiple turns of value out of 1 single Magma Basin.
has the potential to get a lot of value out of that stadium card. We give it so much praise. It has found its home here with Charizard to be able to accelerate energy on a stadium card. That effect has not seen any play really in the Pokemon trading card game in a while.
So James uses Trading Court, brings a Fire Energy back to the hand, has Ultra Ball and Galarian Zigzagoon, but is content with just going with the Claw Slash, takes a KO, one prize card off of the Beedrill. Now Peter will send up the Arceus V-Star, has that free retreat, and does have a double turbo. Peter did have a pretty weak hand after that last turn. Let's see if he's got anything. It doesn't look like it.
Wow, this hand is really lacking, and this is going to open the door up for James to put something together. I think debating to even bench or utilize this Trading Court, you can at least get the energy back into the hand. So going to elect to do that with the Trading Court. And it looks like we'll just see the Trinity Nova 180 damage. And we see the double turbo energy already in hand. And even though you're doing reduced damage, it's just enough to take a knockout on an opposing Arceus V-Star. We'll see if that's the line James goes for as the draw to start the turn finds Boss's Orders off the top as well. That's just another option that could be played here.
G-Max Wildfire seems like a pretty good choice, and it's not even in threat of being KO'd by a Beedrill or something on the next turn because it discards 2 energy after you use it. So what you can do is just slap the double turbo down, deal 280 damage, and discard the double turbo. So now Beedrill won't be able to KO the Charizard VMAX.
We do see the double turbo get committed to this Charizard VMAX, G-Max Wildfire, one of those signature Dynamax moves, or Gigantamax in this case moves for these Pokemon. Ultra Ball as well, getting rid of the Boss's Orders in the hand, potentially to find a Crobat to draw some more cards. Fill the hand back up. I believe that last card in hand is a Professor's Research.
I think it's a Zigzagoon.
Oh, it is actually the Zigzagoon, my mistake.
So it does grab the Crobat, needs it to draw some more cards this turn. Would love to maybe get a Magma Base and start putting some energies on this benched Charizard V. We know that James did discard that second copy of Charizard V-Star, but can still get in there with an attack with the Charizard V. Like we mentioned, its second attack can take a one-hit knockout on Arceus Vs in the late game.
So see what these 5 cards bring. There is the Magma Basin, as you talked about. Can get rid of the Trading Court and start to accelerate some energy. Can even utilize the Trading Court to bring some energies back. But no, deciding to just play the Magma Basin, utilizing its effect, allowing you to get a Fire Energy out of your discard pile onto one of your Fire Pokemon. You have to put 2 damage counters on, but even putting damage on your Pokemon, the effect is just so powerful.
Yeah, that's an easy trade-off to make. You don't mind it too much. The problem here for James is that his hand is still pretty weak, so he's going to go try to find a new one here with this Marnie. Gets rid of the Boss's Orders, which could have been decent on the next turn, and we know that Peter was sitting on kind of a weak hand, so James is maybe going to kick himself here if Peter finds some more valuable pieces off of this supporter.
I'm interested to see Peter's hand at this point to see if it warranted anything. Even an Arceus V-Star to be able to knock out this Charizard that's just sitting here in the active, dealing tons of damage. James drawing into another double turbo energy, Boss's Orders, a few Magma Basin to have the replacement stadium, but there it is, the G-Max Wildfire, 280 damage, knocking out the Arceus V-Star, going down to just 3 prize cards remaining, and did find the Arceus V-Star off of this. Marnie
also has an Ultra
Ball.
Ball. This can go grab a Drizzile or an Inteleon out of the deck. Peter does play a ton of different energy cards in this list, but one of the energies he is not playing that we see from these Arceus Inteleon decks from time to time is water. So no basic water in this list, so Aqua Bullet is not an option, which would actually be pretty solid in this spot since Charizard VMAX, of course, is weak to water. Peter will have to just be content taking this KO with an Arceus V-Star.
It may be a little bit of an awkward discard. You have to put that together, though, getting rid of a Sharon's Care, but able to find 2 trainer cards off of these Shady Dealings. We'll have to see what the choices are. These Sobbles are also fresh on the bench, so a scoop-up net can recycle the Inteleon to make something work. Looks like preferring to draw some cards for this turn. Research being put to the top of the deck. Has Quick Ball already in hand as the last card. So maybe thinking about just grabbing a card you don't quite need in this position to put away. It looks like Big Charm is the option for the second card off of Shady Dealings. Very solid.
So Peter does have enough to knock out this active Charizard, either with a basic energy or a double turbo. So that would hit for either 160 or 180, which either way is enough to pick up this 3 prize knockout. Does need to find the energy card, though. Does not have it yet, so that's going to be what he's looking for off of these research. 7 cards to come. Does he find an energy? Looks like it. He's moving a little bit quicker. I think I did see a Darkness energy in there.
There it is, the secret rare Darkness Energy. Also has the Arceus to power up with Trinity Nova. Additionally, we'll have to see through this deck search if there are
Yeah,
any
I don't know
basic
how many energy.
One, two.
Okay, there's
two
a couple. Yeah, yeah. So it's still a decent option. Shady Dealings grabs a card out of the deck here as well.
Yeah, and the fact that Peter plays Zapdos, I think, could be a pretty big deal because there are 4 V Pokemon in play. After this Charizard gets knocked out, that would mean this Zapdos gets to essentially have a field day at this point to potentially knock out one of these Crobats. So that would be the card to keep your eye out for next turn, Chip.
Peter eyeing up what to grab off of this Shady Dealings. Quick Ball seems to be a decent choice, maybe going for a Zapdos play, like you mentioned, because James does not play that Dunsparce, so not going to be a threat that Peter has to worry about playing around. There's the energy drop. Maybe wants to surprise James with the Zapdos. Potentially there are obviously a ton of Pokemon V in play, so no reason to grab it now, but Quick Ball can find it much easier on the next turn. Now the question here for Peter is, do I accelerate this basic fighting? And the answer is no, because he wants to threaten Zapdos. I like this.
I like this play. You potentially have the option for Training Court, but one is already gone, so that is not an option. But
could take it off the prizes.
Look at the prize cards here, Chip. It's looking like it will be grabbed, all but one going to Peter. Peter's one knockout away from taking this game number 1. James has got to put something together. You're not going to be able to close the game out this turn. Even this Arceus is not looking like it's going to be knocked out. We'll see what the lines of play are. I see double turbo energy, but there's no way to get a Galarian Zigzagoon in this hand. Besides this Ultra Ball, we could be seeing a knockout onto this benched Arceus V, and it looks like that will be potentially what is grabbed. Going to discard the Magma Basin and most likely one of the Fire Energies or just the other Magma Basin in play, getting value out of it. But smartly going to choose the Fire Energy just in case this Magma Basin gets bumped, put out into play. You can go ahead and reutilize the other one in your hand. And we see the Zigzagoon already being put to the top of the deck. It will be the choice. And it looks like, so far with what James is signaling, we are going to see this Boss's Orders play onto the Arceus.
So James is going to have a tough time, I think, closing this one out, but it is entirely possible. Could try to load up some basic energies on this active Arceus, and then on the next turn, go for an Echoing Horn play. He does play one copy of that, so that's probably the route he is playing towards. But we know that Peter has the Zapdos. If he can pull the pieces out to get that card into play, he could close the game out on this next turn. Also just has Boss's Orders as well. That will close the game out. Trinity Nova can KO anything there on the bench. And Peter Kica wins game number 1 in round 14. The win and in round. James is going to have to fight back if he wants to be the one to make top 8 here.
Yeah, we see how powerful Beedrill can be on the second turn of the game to threaten that Persisting to just swing the tide right away. And with all of that, you're a 1-prize Pokemon. If your opponent knocks it out, you're still completely happy to have that trade in your favor. Very nice from Peter. Going into this game number 2, James started first, Misty Energy. Is that really just the key that he needs to get things rolling in this matchup?
Yeah, that would have been a big help for sure. Another big piece was the fact that James had to discard the second Charizard V-Star, so he couldn't threaten a follow-up one-hit knockout on the next Arceus V-Star on Peter's side of the field. James here, you can see moving very, very quickly, trying to shuffle the deck up and get this opening hand ready to get into game 2. Still plenty of time left at 32 minutes. That's enough time to play 2 games for sure.
And that may have been the fastest piling shuffling I think I've ever seen in the Pokemon trading card game. I'm a pretty fast piler. I can't beat that myself.
James moving furiously. He's been in these situations before, of course, a regional champion in his own right. Looking to add another title to his accolades, but in order to make that happen, is going to have to win 2 games here. Peter Kica is going to do everything he can to stop that, try to win this game, and just move on to the finals, or the top 8 himself.
Looks like we're getting ready to get things underway. Prize cards for both these players. See if there's anything too relevant. Another double turbo boss, nothing too relevant. The Galarian Zapdos and the prizes could be a deal, but it looks like it's at the bottom.
2 Arceus V as well.
Yeah, 2 Arceus V. Some of those Pokemon are at the bottom of the prizes. It looks like James is ready to get things kicked off right off the bat. Starting things off, we are getting into things looking a lot better. Has the Arceus, has the turn 1 energy attachment. It's also not a special energy, so there's no threat of a turn 1 Beedrill getting the knockout. Very solid stuff for James. Just going to pass the turn back over to Peter Kica. Looks like the top deck of Hoopa for turn, but there is the Quick Ball plus the energy attachment on Peter's side itself. So this is shaping up to be a little bit more balanced of a game number 2.
Yeah, James's hand is actually really, really good. He's got the Arceus V-Star, he's got the Charizard VMAX, he has Choice Belt, and a Professor's Research to just ditch the hand and draw a fresh 1 of 7. Plenty of outs, of course, to get the double turbo energy, and he can just grab it guaranteed, obviously, with the V-Star. A power, of course, needs to reflip that V-Star marker over there on his side, it looks like, since it didn't get flipped back over after the last game. Peter going to take a moment here to check through the deck with this quick ball, of course, wanting to get an Arceus V in play, I'm sure, and get an energy attachment onto it so he can match what James has done on his side.
Mirroring in this Arceus mirror usually works out most of the time, but has the Arceus off of the quick ball. Energy attachment already in hand. I think I saw the B-Drill in there. It's really where you don't want the B-Drills in the hand. You want to have them in the deck to be able to grab out. Forced to discard the B-Drill. Maybe if you need to Ordinary Rod one back in later on in the game, it's a lot better to just have that potential. Just in case you top deck an Ordinary Rod for turn, you'd rather have that there if you're trying to empty your hand out the following turn for Mustard.
Ooh.
If this Arc is going to attack, benches the Sobble, passes the turnover. Are the cards here to get a knockout on this Arceus? I think they are. The Arceus and the Choice Belt are already in hand. That means double turbo, plus what looks like the potential to thin the hand out with Crobat. Just needs to find either the Boss's Orders or the Zigzagoon, and that would be all the pieces needed to knock out this Arceus V over on Peter's side.
Yeah, looks like that card in his hand was not Charizard VMAX. It was, in fact, Crobat V. So James can draw a bunch more cards here and try to pull together this combo. Choice Belt is a great card as well on Charizard VMAX. It's great on Arceus V-Star to knock out opposing Arceus Vs, but the Choice Belt also will allow you to knock out an Arceus V-Star with a big charm on it.
These are big 5 cards. Do we see a Zigzagoon or a Boss's Orders? Ultra Ball, that will get him there.
That will get him there. Peter can, of course, James can also use Starbirth to get the other 2 pieces needed, the double turbo energy and the Boss's Orders itself. James is just piecing all of it together. What are the best 2 cards to discard out of this hand? He's got it. Gets rid of the Arceus V and the Fire Energy, and this is going to be a huge swing in James's favor, and this game could be over very, very quickly.
And this is what James mentioned in the interview yesterday. The deck is meant to do exactly this. Get your energy down, prioritizing knocking out a Pokemon with Boss's Orders, and then from there, taking control of the game, sort of how we've seen Mew VMAX do that sometimes, and getting that turn 1 catcher heads into Melodious Echo, as we see the Boss's Orders, the double turbo, the Zigzagoon, bringing everything up. Just enough damage. What a turn here for James, taking the knockout and accelerating all these energies on the Charizard. It's turn number 2, and James already has full control of this game.
And Peter is sitting with just 2 lowly Sobbles on his side of the field. That is not quite as good as what James has. Now, we mentioned how Peter's deck has a ton of different options available to it. He's playing the Galarian Moltres, which gets stronger the more prizes your opponent takes. He's also, of course, playing Galarian Zapdos V, which could come in here and take a big knockout. Oh, but let's not forget that Zapdos was actually in the prize cards, Ethan. That would be huge if Peter could pull it off this turn, but that card is just not available. He's prized it this game.
No, Zapdos is not here to play. It's over in the prize cards, inaccessible for the time being, but Level Ball kicking things off, finding this Drizzile, Shady Dealings. But this hand looks so unworkable. I think it's Hoopa Raihan and one other card, maybe like a Boss's Orders in this hand. There's not much to get through, and I mean, Shady Dealings can find a trainer, but there's already just so much pressure being exerted over on James's side. Looks like Ultra Ball will be the grab. Yeah, the last card is that Arceus V-Star, so we'll see everything empty the hand, going to search through for any Pokemon, and it looks like we're going to just be seeing this all in from Peter to go for this Mustard, finding the Mustard, benching this Hoopa V, and we'll see 5 cards plus the B-Drill, looking for something like a Scoop Up Net and a Grass Energy. This is going to be big here for Peter. Has to sort of just try the luck, see if you get it, and maybe from there come up with a game plan, but there doesn't seem to be much of a real game plan after that.
I think the game is going to come down to these 5 cards right here. If Peter can find a Scoop Up Net or Air Balloon in combination with a Grass Energy or an Energy Search, he'll be able to pull off a one-hit knockout, and he'll still be in this game because we know he's going to be taking that Zapdos off of the prize cards most likely if he takes the bottom 2. So does he find it off of these 5 cards? If he does not, Peter may just concede this game right away. There's Air Balloon. That's a great start. Does he find the basic Grass? No, he does not. There is not one in the discard pile. Did find the Training Court, but that's not quite going to work.
Now 1 piece short, unfortunate. If you're Peter here, you've got to always be aware of the clock to finish games out. These sets are going pretty quickly, but the last thing you want to do is tie, and this is a very smart decision from Peter. Understands this game is ending in 2 to 3 turns. It's just extra time off the clock that I don't need to waste. We're going into game number 3 here, Chip. All the money's on the line.
What
Things are getting
a
intense.
showing. What a showing from the Charizard VMAX. James just absolutely popped off, did everything he needed to do, found the combo to target down that Arceus with an energy on turn 1. But he's not going to be at that advantage in this game. He's going second in this instance, and we haven't seen James go second quite yet in this set. How does he need to navigate things by going second as opposed to going first, which we've seen time and time again from these Arceus decks? Obviously, when you're going first, you want to get the turn 1 energy attachment. How does he have to adjust his game plan here as the Arceus Charizard deck?
I mean, you essentially are turned behind. Instead of going for the boss's orders play to knock out the active Arceus, most of the time you're now going after the one that's not the V-Star, right? Most likely, Peter wants to get down on his side the Arceus V-Star, the energy attachments to be able to Trinity Nova onto another Arceus, and then that Arceus has energies on it and needs to be the target for boss's orders. James needs to find boss's orders on the second turn of the game. It's going to be a little bit harder to keep up, but we even saw at that point he was a turn ahead, had all the pressure, had everything that was needed. So I think more so it's going to be interesting to see how Peter adjusts in this game 1. Things went well, but we're playing in game 1 at a weird scenario where your opponent didn't do much. So there wasn't much you need to really be afraid of. You've seen the strength of Charizard and more so this Arceus deck, how it's been built going second. We'll see what this opening hand looks like. Looks like a mulligan to start things off for Peter. You gotta not be feeling so great about that. Let's see the prizes. Luminion in the prize cards, as well as one of those Charizard VMAXs.
That could be a big deal. We saw that come up a little bit in game number 1. James got rid of one of the Charizard VMAX early on, so wasn't able to threaten that at the end of game number 1. And that is at the top of the prize card, so it's unlikely James will have access to it in this game either.
Yeah, very interesting. Eyes are going to be on how Peter starts this game out hand-wise. Wants to find Arceus and energy attachment. This is, if there's any game, right, that you need to find your Arceus and your energy attachment, it is this game. It is right now. We'll see these 7 cards for Peter.
7 cards to come, wanting to find an Arceus, also a Sobble or 2 to get in play. Does look like he at least has a basic Pokemon from our view over here. And we're about to get into this game, but first we got to see these prizes. A Mustard prize is not ideal, and a Beedrill as well. That could make things a little awkward. Also, Big Charm, a pretty important card in this matchup, so that your Arceus V-Star can survive a hit from a Charizard VMAX.
We're kicking things off here. Game number 3 between both of these players. Has the double turbo energy. You've got to be feeling a sigh of relief right off the bat that you can threaten Trinity Nova the following turn to apply some pressure. Has Energy Search in hand, as well as a Drizzile.
Yeah, very good
This looks very solid. Yeah, I think Peter is just content to pass his hand over and try to get out a Mustard play the following turn.
Over on James' side of the field, does have a Research, which is really good. He can ditch the hand, draw a bunch of cards. There's a couple of searching options here between Quick Ball and Ultra Ball, so he can get pretty set up here. I think he's going to be wanting to dig for that Trinity Charge if he can pull it off, needing to find Escape Rope, plus the Arceus, plus the double turbo energy to make those things happen.
It all starts with an Ultra Ball. It all starts with a Quick Ball. Anything can happen at this point. There's the Arceus V getting grabbed off the bat. And looking at the rest of this hand, has Magma Basin, no way to discard any fire energy as well. And this is sort of one of the really weird positions where using Magma Basin early on when your Charizard is in the active can get a bit scary, because that 20 damage can become relevant, because 200 is not an impossible number to hit. It means you just need a Choice Belt or an all basic energy Arceus V.
Sure.
Star would be able to take a knockout, so that's got to be something James is considering. Discarding Echoing Horn, another card off of the Ultra Ball. Really just prioritizes saying, hey, I know what I did to you game number 1. I really don't want that to happen to me over here in game number 3.
Getting 2 Arceus V in play to prepare for any sort of shenanigans over on Peter's side of the field. I expect we'll see the Professor's Research coming out. The Magma Basin comes into play. But before the Research, we've actually got 5 cards to draw off of Crobat. This is pretty nice. Looking for an energy. I am sure looking for a switch card as well. Finds neither, though. Not great cards off of that hand. And honestly, one that's not great to discard is that Boss's Orders or that second copy of Magma Basin to hit the discard pile. We see the third one in play. James does play 4 copies, but that means Peter can theoretically win the Stadium War since he has 2 copies of Training Court.
one thing that's just on the top of my mind right now is that in both Game 1 and Game 2, Peter revealed no knowledge of Zapdos anywhere, which is a very solid card in this matchup, especially if you're going first. You can maybe get a Beedrill knockout or then hit in and have that as an option. You got to be feeling good if you're going into this Game 3 with still some of your deck knowledge maybe private. James doesn't have that information, but a lot of these players have been playing together at top tables, have been seeing what other players have been playing. So I'm very interested to see if James will navigate around that. But just benching Crobat against Zapdos can be so detrimental. It's just 2 free prizes that can be worked, and especially for it to grab pretty much nothing, you're just going to play this research. But we'll have to see. 7 cards. Do we see an energy attachment? And switch double turbo as well. What are the cards? Binds of fire energy, but no switch and no double turbo.
So James will just have to attach an energy and probably pass it back over to Peter's side. Yeah, Peter didn't reveal the Zapdos at all, and he also, I don't even think, revealed the basic fighting energy. So James is probably sitting over there thinking, yeah, this guy's got darkness energy, grass energy, I'm chilling. There's no way he plays Zapdos. But little does he know, Peter actually does have the Zapdos and the basic fighting energy, playing 3 different types in this deck.
Has access to a rainbow variety of these basic energy and attackers. Looks like we will see the evolution instance get grabbed for the Arceus V-Star, and it looks like it's going to be Starbirth time. There's already 2 Quick Ball in the hand. Energy Search as well can grab the grass energy to put on this Arceus, or we could see it just discarded for the Beedrill, but a Beedrill's not going to be doing anything this turn. You're not going to be using Jet Spear onto an Charizard. You worked so hard to get that out. There's the attachment. V-Star Power, Starbirth, eyeing up actually the boss's orders to maybe apply some pressure to this Arceus V that has the energy onto it.
Yeah, Peter doesn't have the Galarian Zigzagoon in the deck, so he doesn't have a way to one-hit KO any of these Pokemon that have 220 hit points. But what he could do here is just get the hit off into the Arceus V that has that energy on James's side, so he can guarantee 2-hit KO it on the following turn. Or if he wanted to, Peter could just chase the prize cards here. Go after that Crobat V, take 2 prizes here right away on turn number 2, and put yourself at a huge advantage, and that is exactly what Peter is going to do.
I actually really like this play because it's going to force James to double turbo this Arceus V if it wants to attack and use Trinity Nova, and then it sets up right into this Beedrill play, which Peter has the cards to potentially put together Beedrill on the following turn. Quick Ball will grab the Arceus V. There's the Trinity Nova accelerating all of those basic energy out of the deck. Peter is taking the first 2 prize cards in game number 2.
Yeah, Peter is in just an excellent spot here in game number 3. James has a solid hand to work with. Arceus V-Star, Research, the Charizard V-Max, it looks like there as well. So he's got plenty of options, plenty of things available.
Yeah, I think Peter's just still deciding where to attach these basic energy. It looks like we will see 1 on the active, just in case this needs to pivot out and retreat. I like this play, preparing for future turns in which this Arceus is still there. Looking for the prize cards, not the best to try to make a Beedrill play happen the following turn. You're going to have Beedrill, which you need in the deck to use Mustard for, and Big Charm's not bad, but I think maybe really looking for something like the Ultra Ball or the Mustard itself there to make something happen.
Yeah, really smart from Peter to put a extra energy on this active, because what he can do next turn is he can retreat the basic grass and the basic darkness energy off of his active Arceus V-Star, and then now those grass energies are in the discard pile to grab back with Training Court in future turns. So after pulling off a Mustard play, if he can get into the Training Court, he'll be able to retreat, pull that attack off, and 1-hit KO James's active Arceus V-Star.
V-Star power online for James. Arceus V-Star making yet another showing on the main stage stream. There's the double turbo energy, the Charizard V-Max coming into play, as well as a second Arceus V-Star. So it's going to be a little bit harder now for Peter to string together a boss's orders knockout onto some of these Pokemon as they continue to evolve. But that second Charizard V-Max being the top prizes means that Charizard V is just going to kind of just be hanging out for the majority of the game. There's no other way to get that V-Max or evolved, but we will see the evolution instance. Looks like get played. Can potentially grab something else, but maybe now James is just coming to the realization that there's none of that. We are actually seeing the V-Star power be used, so grabbing any 2 cards out of the deck. It looks like Quick Ball to discard a Fire Energy is a solid grab. You can now guarantee that as a Magma Basin option, and then you can go ahead and accelerate energy, draw some cards with Research. This is what you really need to see here for James. It's not great, but it's what you need to do.
Does find a Charizard V, who debating between that and the Crobat. I think it's going to depend what supporter James wants to go for this turn. I believe did discard that 1 copy of Galarian Zigzagoon, so that means there is no option to go for some crazy boss's orders, choice belt, Zigzagoon play to take 2 prizes on the bench Arceus. He's just going to have to be content heading into this active and going for a 2-hit knockout. Or boss's orders targeting a
Ooh.
Drizzile, potentially.
Okay, bossing up the Drizzile.
And this is really smart, actually, because it makes it much more difficult for Peter to pull off a Beedrill attack this turn.
Yeah, and also if Beedrill ever comes into play, it just plays into an even prize tree. You knock an Arceus V-Star, another Arceus V-Star, and then 2 one-prize Pokemon, the Drizzile and the Beedrill. So smart play there from James. Understands that this route seems to be the best to get things done, to maybe close something out. But it looks like Peter did not have the cards as of right now to make things happen, and even has the Ordinary Rod in hand to bring back those pieces. So we'll have to see if that's what Peter decides to do. 3 energies out of the deck. James responding with with a prize card taken of his own, as Palpad off the top. Not a card you want to see right now, and Peter understands. I want to save these 2 recovery cards for later. I don't need them now, and they are going to go on the bottom of my deck, so I'm not going to see them here off of these 5 cards from Marnie.
The Big Charm was a huge grab for Peter off of the prize cards because it gives this Arceus V-Star 30 more hit points, so it becomes out of range of the G-Max Wildfire from Charizard V-Max. Now James is going to have to find Choice Belt if he wants to reach for the one-hit knockout, needing to find 1 extra piece. So on this next turn, he'll need Choice Belt and double Turbo Energy to get a KO.
Has Level Ball as well to find the last Sobble, the last one being, the 4th one being in the prize card, so unavailable as of right now for Peter. But you need to get these out. Could also find a Drizzile this turn, but I think getting some more Sobbles out and having shitty dealings the following turn when you've pretty much done all you need to do this turn seems like a lot better of an option.
He's got everything he needs. Setting up for the future does seem pretty solid. I guess if you get a Drizzile here, though, you do open up the door to get an Inteleon on the following turn, so that could be something he's thinking of. You could even just go get Drizzile and then Level Ball for another Sobble so that you have both options available to you.
Yeah, the Big Charm being on the active is solid. It, again, prevents this from being knocked out from a G-Max Wildfire. Would need to have all basic energies plus a Zigzagoon in order to take the knockout, but more so, I think James is content potentially the next turn just attacking with a Arceus just to deal some solid damage. So it'll be interesting to see how these players navigate. They're in an excellent position. I think there's an argument to say both of these players are in a good position to close this game out. This is going to be close. I'm already feeling it here. I'm already excited.
I think Peter is probably slightly favored right now in this game, but James has just so much power behind his deck. He can easily take one-hit knockouts, and I don't think Peter's hand is the best. I think kind of the one problem I've identified with Peter's deck is it's a combination of 2 of the strong decks from the last tournament, but it's less consistent, I feel like. You've got so many different energy types that you're working with. You're trying to fit so much in here between the Moltres, the Zapdos, the Beedrill package. All of these things take up so much space, and when you're doing all of these things, it makes your deck just a little bit less consistent.
Yeah, a really interesting thing to note is the fact that you are running Dark Energy for the Hoopa V as a way to get through as an attacker
no
as well.
Moltres,
There's
right.
no Moltres. At first I was like, well, I haven't seen any Baby Galarian Moltres or anything, but it is the Hoopa V that we saw come down into play. And the Fighting Energy now hitting the board may signal Arnold some concern of, hey, wait, I didn't see that the first 2 games. What's that doing here? What fighting Pokemon do you have access to? And maybe now it's realizing that other Arceus being on the board could be a big issue because of the fact that it is weak to Zapdos, no Dunsparce in this deck, and with multiple V Pokemon potentially in play, it is always a possibility.
So Peter is still in a great spot. With 4 prize cards remaining, his route to victory is find a way to knock out this Arceus V-Star in the active from James. He'll likely have to, boss it up on the next turn, something like that, and then get a boss's orders Zapdos one-hit KO play onto the benched Arceus V-Star. So Peter can make it through this match without ever having to, in Game 3 here, KO a Charizard V-Max, potentially. Now, on James's side, has 5 prize cards remaining. That makes things quite a bit more difficult. He has to get through 2 Arceus V-Star and then still clean up a knockout on something like a Drizzile, Sobble, or maybe even Inteleon.
And this is even scarier now because by benching Crobat, Zapdos doesn't even need to be a possibility. 2 boss's orders can now close this game out. But it seems that James needs to find cards at this point. I feel like I'd rather just maybe play the Marty and then see what my options are before going for some sort of a Crobat play. But no, we're going to see the Crobat get benched. That may be a breath of light there for Peter.
James is just really digging for the Choice Belt. That is the card he needs this turn. Would also love to find a switch so he can conserve this energy on the Arceus V-Star, I imagine. Evolution Instance, just probably thinning a card out of the deck. Can get another Charizard VMAX potentially, or just the Arceus V-Star to put it on the bottom of the deck. Oh, I believe that other Charizard VMAX actually in the prize cards. So now we'll just put this Arceus V-Star on the bottom so that off of this Marnie, it's not a card that he's going to have to worry about drawing into.
Absolutely. Looks like we'll grab that Arceus. Putting on the bottom, these are going to be a big 5 cards off of the Marnie. Looking at the discard pile, seeing if any choice belts are gone already. No, so 2 still in the deck for James. As we will see the Arceus enter the hand. Has Escape Rope, but you want to keep this Arceus active. You can retreat it easily with the double turbo energy, so that is an option clear for James. And there is the Marnie. Big 5 cards, can't stress that enough. Looking for that choice belt chip. We'll see if we find it. Both players' decks going to the bottom. 5 cards off the top.
1,
what do we
2,
see?
3, 4, and 5. He finds neither card, the switch nor the choice belt. The big miss definitely being that choice belt, and Peter is going to hang on. And that could be the deciding factor in this game. The fact that James missed this one-hit knockout could just mean Peter is in too good of a position to lose.
Oh, this is such a big miss here for James. Can't even play any of the other cards in hand. Is actually going to opt to retreat into the Charizard to maybe just deal some damage at first with the Streamax Wildfire. Could also Claw Slash and save it for later, but at this point...
Then you're getting into Beedrill territory.
Yeah, then you're getting into Beedrill
I don't like that.
Oh, no, it's going to Claw Slash. Oh, no, this opens up Beedrill now to be a potential line for Peter.
Yeah,
and the Drizzle top deck. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, no Sobbles yet.
Oh, no Sobbles
play.
decide not to bench it, it looks like. Maybe? I'm not sure why
I think he took it off the prize cards.
Oh, Sobble was taken off the prize cards, it looks like. My mistake.
So, has double turbo. I don't think really has very many plays available. Isn't going to be able to pull off Beedrill, and he's also not going to be able to pull off Boss, I don't think.
Inteleon could actually be a grab here off of Shady Dealing, so...
Did have that Ultra Ball.
Yeah, look at that. I just have to see if there's a way to thin the rest of the hand out. I see another Quick Ball. I don't know if there's the last card can get played in this hand. I
wonder
to see
if
what
Peter
it is.
even cares about going for Beedrill. I mean, it would be pretty good here still, but you also could just go Boss. Like you mentioned, with that Crobat V coming into play, Boss is a viable win condition for Peter at this point. He does go with the Mustard, though, and this is solid.
And this is going to guarantee it, actually, at this point, if there's the last card to thin out of the hand. So look at this, the Mustard as well. And this will guarantee the knockout on the Charizard because the Training Court can bring back this Grass Energy if this Arceus V-Star retreats, which it most definitely will.
And now Peter Kica is putting himself 1 Boss's orders away from winning the game on the next turn. Can target down either the Arceus V-Star or the Crobat V. And potentially Peter doesn't even have to play Boss's orders because the only thing James can really attack with next turn is an Arceus V-Star, which we know is weak to fighting, and Peter has the Zapdos.
Finds the scoop up net as well, can reuse this Inteleon line. Even more options for the following turn. We see the Training Court already in play. Ultra Ball as well in the hand to guarantee the outs. I think just eyeing up utilizing this Ordinary Rod to just put back Drizzles in the deck understands that is the win condition for the following turn. Yeah. And it looks like we are going to eyeing it up to the hand, but it seems like a very solid grab because it also puts them back in the deck just in case a card like Marnie gets played.
Absolutely.
You can now draw into those, so we will see the retreat into the Beedrill. The Big Charm staying on the Arceus. We've got Training Court to utilize the attachment for turn to Beedrill. We'll just have to make sure Peter shuffles the deck up, though, because those 2 cards, I believe, are still on the top of the deck. So
the Persist Sting from Beedrill takes a 3-prize KO on Charizard VMAX. It's not too often that you'll see a Beedrill defeating a Charizard in a one-on-one battle, but it comes out on top for Peter in this instance. James does have the replacement stadium in that Magma Basin. Also has a Marnie in hand to disrupt the current hand on Peter's side.
Did he shuffle the deck off of Ordinary Rod? Am I missing something that the deck
I'm pretty sure he did.
I think he must have shuffled, right? So
I guess we'll know if he draws 2 Drizzles right here right away.
He didn't shuffle.
I don't think he did shuffle.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, we might need to get word down to the judges at the table here. Peter did not shuffle the deck after using Ordinary Rod. He put the 2 Drizzles on top of the deck and then forgot to shuffle, I think.
Wow, this is such a heartbreaking situation when we're so close to the end, the climax of this game.
I think Peter is still okay. It's a reversible... Well, is it a reversible situation because the hand has already been put on the bottom of the deck from Peter, and I don't know that those cards can be recovered.
Yeah, hopefully we can get some word here and figure out what's happening with this game, but James does play the Marnie, so we are going to see the hands get shuffled. They are going into the back, so hopefully we can figure out what happened from this situation at this point. Yeah,
so looks like the judges are talking to it. We're talking to the players. We're gonna determine if Peter did indeed shuffle or not after that Ordinary Rod. I'm not sure if he did or not.
You were shuffling after everything, but I do not remember off the top of my head. Do you want me to reshuffle? If you're confirming that, then I will reshuffle.
So we're going to get a look at this situation. The players and the judges are talking, going to try to determine exactly how things played out. This is a really awkward spot because Peter's hand was put on the bottom of the deck, and those cards are not recoverable now. Normally, you know, if someone forgot to shuffle after a previous action, it's a pretty easy fix. You just have each other shuffle, right?
I don't think my memory is serving me incorrect. I'm almost certain here.
I mean, it is entirely possible.
It is possible.
It is entirely possible that Peter put the 2 Drizziles on top of the deck and then shuffled after the Ordinary Rod, and then just happened to still draw into those 2 pieces. It is still a random deck, and it is possible that that was the case. But we just don't know for sure at this point if Peter remembered to shuffle after utilizing that Ordinary Rod, and that is definitely a big deal in this spot because putting 2 Drizziles on top of the deck would just guarantee that even off of a Marnie, the Sobble would be able to evolve and find Peter the game-winning boss.
Yeah, this is quite the situation here. I'm trying to figure out exactly what is happening. Again, this is just this is just what I remember seeing. So, the fact that like something like that happens, it's just an interesting scenario where you play a card, you have another action, your mind is on something. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's just what happened at that point, that the cards just weren't shuffled at some point, but. I'm not sure. I just feel horrible if that's not the case and that I'm incorrect on that sense. So,
yeah, we'll get confirmation here. The judges are going to talk through it here. So, yeah, I mean, Peter's talking with the judge. The second table judge has gotten up from the table and is conferring with someone else, trying to figure out what to do. So, we do have 2 judges on these stream matches watching all of these actions from these players, but so one more back here trying to confirm everything, and we'll hopefully get this figured out pretty shortly.
Yeah, hopefully we get the situation wrapped up in order. This is where we sort of take a little bit of a pause back as we're dealing with a judge issue. We're dealing with a situation where these players are figuring out what is happening, what the situation is looking like. It's just again one of those situations where we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And this is a live match, so I don't know footage reviews or whatever how it works. We're trying to just make sure we deal with everything in the most proper, correct way as possible. It's just one of the situations that happens. Long judge calls are a part of the Pokemon trading card game. It's about maintaining the board state, making sure the game is being played fairly, accurately.
Absolutely.
Everybody's playing the cards how they should. And this is just an unfortunate situation, regardless of how this turns out. And these players are in a groove. They're in a headspace. They're trying to finish this game out. We're at the climax. We have a little over 6 minutes left in the round before this happens. So hopefully this all gets resolved soon. Everything turns out to be correct, and then we can continue to play some Pokemon.
Yeah, timer's been paused, so no matter how long this judge ruling takes, the players will get an extension. The time will be played out the same way as it was previously. But yeah, as these players are sitting here, they've got to be thinking about all these actions in this game, what James is trying to navigate through on this coming turn. And we'll just have to see if we can confirm what exactly happened that previous turn after Peter Kica played the Ordinary Rod. Did he remember to shuffle the deck? It is a simple mistake to make. You're going in and out of the deck all the time when you're utilizing Inteleon, you're utilizing Arceus, of course, Pal Pad, Ordinary Rod. So many ways to shuffle the deck every single turn. Sometimes you can just forget one simple step, and that really can make such a big difference.
Yeah, I would love to re-see the footage and see exactly what happened, but until we get confirmation in word, you're going to have to hear us a little bit as we talk through the match so far. And what a match this has been, Chip, because this has been a showing of 2 not really standard archetypes. We've seen Peter throw this deck together. It's playing the Dark Pieces and the Beedrill. We previously saw Isaiah Bradner bring this deck that just played Arceus as the attacker with Beedrill as a supportive option to take care of these special energy decks. But what are your thoughts on this? It's got a lot going on. It's maybe a little bit more inconsistent, but do you think it's really worth the trade-off as a positive matchup spread against a lot of these different decks?
It is a really cool deck, but like I mentioned earlier, I do think it makes it less consistent. So you just have to determine, is that trade-off worth it? Do you take more favorable matchups against the field, but lose a little bit of consistency here and there? Peter is sitting at a 9-1-3 record, so he's had multiple matches go to a Game 3 where they just haven't quite been able to finish and they've ended in a tie. He's only lost 1 match so far this entire tournament, so it appears to me that losing a little bit of consistency to favor better matchups has worked out in this instance.
It's one of those trade-offs you got to make. Build a deck that's consistent and gets the job done. Maybe doesn't have as much of a diverse game plan. It's pretty linear in what it does. Or build a deck like this that has multiple routes you can take, as we've seen throughout these games, to see how strong they are, how powerful they are. They can take care of different matchups, different ways. The Beedrill take care of the special energy. The Hoopa to deal with Mew and Urshifu. There's a lot going on. Regardless of what happens, I think Peter has really brought some more light to Arceus. I feel like every time we look at Arceus, we're like, what else could you pair with Arceus? What more can this card have? What else can it complement? And
it can do so much, for sure.
Charizard, other cards, what else? It's just everything can be paired with Arceus. It's like you throw it on some food like some butter, right? Anything's better with butter.
So it looks like these players are we're getting it figured out from the judges. If we can remember exactly how many cards Peter had in hand off the Marnie, and maybe that's what the judges are going to do, is put the right amount of cards back into Peter's hand, and then he'll get an opportunity to shuffle the deck here, and then we'll draw his next hand, and that exactly looks like is what is happening. The judge is drawing the hand that Peter put onto the bottom of the deck. He will then put this new hand that he received from James's Marnie onto the deck, shuffle the deck up, and then the game will continue back as normal. There will likely be some sort of penalty issued here. Not sure if it'll be a multi-prize penalty. It could just be a warning. We'll have to see exactly what the ruling is. The judges did review the VOD, we are being told, so they confirmed everything exactly how it is supposed to be.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better that we have some ruling from that. It's just on my end, I don't want to make a mistake that, so to say, is incorrect or costs or is not up to date with what is. But again, we're making sure the rulings are correct. Everything is up to date as we're getting things resolved up. So those Drizzles will be shuffled back into deck like the Ordinary Rod is, I'm sure. And then from there, figuring out the exact situation of what's happening.
Okay, so it looks like, anytime a ruling is made, both players have to, give their little piece here. So we'll see what exactly ends up happening. So the hand will be shuffled. This will be a judge shuffle. So it will be a final shuffle. The deck will be put back, and then the hand that Peter had will be put on the bottom of the deck. And Peter will still get 4 cards, and it looks like this game should continue on as it has. But we'll get an update soon on the penalty that is most likely going to be issued. At minimum, it will be a warning and potentially a multi-prize loss.
See what happens as we figure out the situation for this final game in this intense set. Hopefully we resolve to something that is acceptable for both players. You can always, again, if you feel like a call is incorrect or you don't agree with the call on both sides of things, you can appeal it to a head judge. And both players have that opportunity, have that option to look at what is happening. So
the Marnie has been reversed. We've gotten our official ruling in. Just like we mentioned, the judges went through, reversed the Marnie, and it will be a double prize penalty. So James only needs to take 3 prize cards to win this game. Peter is still sitting at just 1 prize card remaining. So I don't know what those 4 cards are in Peter's hand right now. But if he has an out to the boss's orders, he's got the win on board.
Yeah, and it looks like the energy attachment, fire energy to that Arceus, so double turbo is no longer an option. Not even able to attack.
Drizzile,
and there's the Drizzile.
There we go.
So everything, it looks like, resolved out to how it should be as long as there is a boss's orders still in the deck.
Yeah.
And there it is. Yeah, boss's orders can retreat into the Arceus, and everything got solved out. Peter Kica will win this game in maybe a little bit more dramatic fashion. But, we have to make sure the game state is the same. There's always the possibility that the Drizzile isn't found there, but finds the Drizzile. I'm sure the Ordinary Rod helped it out. Peter Kica advancing to 33 match points, 10-1-3, securing a spot in top 8 cut. Congratulations to Peter, closing things out with such a unique deck.
Yeah, very well played from both players. James played a super cool, unique deck, but just didn't quite have what he needed to close it out in this last matchup. It feels like it might be a little bit harder of a matchup for him. He also did have the disadvantage of, missing the turn 1 energy in game number 1, having